Have you ever been scammed before? We're going to be talking about it on today's show, including a local situation that I wonder, is this a scam? Was this a scam? Did something happen here in NWA that caused people to lose tens of thousands of dollars? More about that on today's episode and what you need to look out for when you're considering buying your latest thing to help your business. Hey, my name is Blake Benz. I'm the host of the Good Advice Podcast, and I love episodes like this because I love talking about the schwarmy, not so great things that people get into. Having been someone myself who has spent money in one place, wondering when the heck am I ever going to see the ROI from this, and then realizing that I, to myself, have been scammed. It's something we all go through. And if you're new to the podcast, this is the place where we're going to tell the real stories. We're going to talk about the actionable, real steps that you need to take to grow your business, and more importantly, the things that are actually a little too good to be true. All that and more on today's show. But before we dive in, we have a word from one of the amazing businesses that sponsors the podcast. If you like the show, if you enjoy the podcast, you can always support us with our Patreon, patreon.com/goodadvice. Or if you want to advertise your business to our faithful followers, you can always reach out, blake@goodadvicecoaching.com. Let's get into the story today. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. There's one single piece of advice that I give to business owners who are ready to scale their business drastically. And that's knowing exactly what you need to hand off so that you can continue focusing on what you're an expert in. It amazes me when I talk to business owners who are doing their own bookkeeping and tax prep, and worse, that they're going through all of this paperwork at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, even midnight, slaving away trying to make sense of all of the numbers for their business. Business owners who are making it happen have already figured out that you can't do it all yourself. That's why I recommend Steve Lay with Equity Business Solutions. Not only is he an expert in bookkeeping and tax prep, but what I love about Steve is that he'll sit down with you and help you make sense of the value of your business beyond just reading a spreadsheet. You'll be able to make better decisions, and more importantly, you're going to save yourself the crucial time you would have spent going through QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is that keeps us up late at night. So save yourself some time and some money by giving Steve Lay a call at Equity Business Solutions, and he'll show you the value beyond your numbers. Go to equitybusinesssolutionsllc.com to find out more. So something happened in our NWA area, and I know we have a lot of listeners to the podcast who aren't local. You're not part of Northwest Arkansas. So just a little bit of context, our NWA area, it's an area that it's a few different towns that are kind of all together in a similar area. And we call it collectively Northwest Arkansas NWA. This is where we have Walmart headquartered. It's where we have Tyson headquartered and also JB Hunt headquartered, among many other incredible, awesome businesses that are all here. Now, if you follow the podcast long term, you know that I've talked about many times things that are too good to be true. Now, part of this is part of my own story. Whenever I started my business, I started Good Advice 6 years ago. 6 years in October. And just starting out, I was beginning my intrepid adventure. I didn't know a lot about business. I had sold quite a bit at my previous consulting company. That previous year, I had sold about $250,000 in, I think actually it was like just over 200K, maybe 215K in sales. And I thought, I'm going to do this thing. How hard can it be? Little did I know, running a business is really freaking hard, which if you're listening and you run a business, you've probably learned that yourself, or at least learned that this wasn't as easy as people talked about it. Now, when I was starting my business, I had someone who told me how easy it was going to be. I had someone, a digital marketer, who basically offered to help me grow my business, and being very candid, talked about the millions upon millions of dollars that he was making and how incredibly easy it would be for me to do the same. Now, I didn't know a lot about online sales. I didn't know a lot about the digital world. In fact, I actively avoided social media at the time, which is kind of funny considering that we're posting every day now on our own social media. So I was pretty green and I was too trusting. And I remember being in the conversation where I was like, so you're going to help me like one on one, like you're going to work directly with me, right? And it was like, yeah, yeah. And we're going to take your business to the next level. This is going to be incredible. Imagine my surprise. And I spent a lot of money on this guy. Imagine my surprise. I get the contract. I read the contract. There is a line in there that's basically like, no refunds. And if you try to do a chargeback, we'll sue you, which was scary as a new business owner. But I thought, no one could run a business this way and not be honest, right? Who would do that? That couldn't happen. So I signed the contract. I paid the down payment, which was $5,000. Remember, I called my wife and was like, hey, this is going to be great. Let's do it. And she was like, okay, let's do it. And I found out very quickly this was not what they presented to be, what they sold me. I immediately was given access to it was kind of like a Google Drive. It was like a website, but with like a bunch of files. And there were a handful of files in there, video files that were basically this guy talking to a group of people like at a speaking engagement, and someone was recording it. And that was it. Very low quality. As a former teacher, the content wasn't very good. And I was shocked. Thinking, there's no way this person's charging $5,000 and thinking it's actually worth this, right? And I remember trying to get a refund and, getting reminded like, well, if you try to charge back, we're going to sue you. And thinking I was a brand new business owner. And I was thinking, how can I go to court against somebody who has millions of dollars? So I let it go. But I didn't totally let it go, in the sense of I have since, years later, continued to be vigilant on pointing out to people when things are too good to be true. I've worked in the business world for a long time now. I've worked with many young entrepreneurs, not necessarily young by age, but new to the trade. And I have given many warnings as to, hey, that's probably too good to be true. Hey, I would walk that one out a little slow. Hey, if they're trying to pressure you to pay out over this next year, to pay a 1-year contract up front, man, I don't know. Some of that sounds the details of that gig sounds a little shady to me. I don't know about that. So I've been very quick to try to guide people in the right way, because I never wanted someone to experience the pain that I did, which I spent the $5,000. I think I spent another $10,000 trying to climb out of that hole. I think I spent another $2,000 or $3,000 with someone else. And it was a lot of money that I burned very quickly. And that's a whole different story, by the way, where I thought that the road to successful entrepreneurship was through an invoice that you pay. And the more that you pay it, the more money that you spend, the quicker your route to profitability and running a successful business. When in actuality, it's just quicker to bankruptcy. It's just quicker to, burning through your cash reserves, running out of money, and no longer being able to survive. So I try to lead people in the right way. I try to bring up some of these conversations. And even here's what's really interesting about these kinds of situations, by the way, I've noticed that, especially in the last few years, scammers have gotten really good at presenting a lack of risk, where they say things like, hey, you're going to put this money up with us, but don't worry. If you don't get the results that you want, we're going to refund all of it. No questions asked. Well, surprisingly, when someone asks for a refund, that person disappears, or worse. And I've had people tell me stories of this. They've reached out, they share with me their stories where they say, hey, I want a refund. And the person twists it and says, well, it's your fault it didn't work. It isn't our fault. It isn't our fault. I can't talk. It's your fault. You didn't do the right thing. You screwed this up, not us. We did everything we're supposed to do. We delivered on everything we said we would. And so the person who was originally promised a no questions asked refund is now being blamed when they're wondering, why did this thing I pay for not actually lead me anywhere in my business? Now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking that could never happen, I'm telling you, this happens every single day. I see it on social media. Like I mentioned, I've had people who've reached out and they've shared their story with me. It happens every day. And you would think, people can't get away with this. They do. It's just what happens. It's just what happens. There's actually a YouTuber I really like. His name is CoffeeZilla. You can check him out if you want. Just search CoffeeZilla. This is a guy who his entire YouTube channel is on internet scams. He's actually in the mainstream news as of late because I don't know if you know who Logan Paul is. He's a popular influencer. And this guy CoffeeZilla did a big report on Logan Paul basically scamming people out, allegedly, millions and millions of dollars. And now Logan Paul is suing CoffeeZilla for this reporting that he had done, that he had published. So he's been in the news as of late, but I like this guy's content because he's always sharing, he's always really going out of his way to try to call out things that simply, the business world would be better off if we didn't have all of these things. I talked with a customer the other day who he got called by, by the way, I apologize to our listeners who are marketers, who run marketing agencies, who are digital marketers. It's unfair for me to talk so broadly about your industry. Because I know there are some locally who are doing a great job, not just locally, but even online, people that I would recommend in a heartbeat and they just do great work. So I do apologize for that. But you got to be careful because in some of these cases, there's not an easy path to accountability. And worse off, these people are so good at obfuscating data that they almost make you feel guilty for wondering why the results aren't there. I had a customer of mine, though, who a marketer called him and basically said, hey, why don't you have 200 reviews on your Google page? And he was like, well, I just started my business. I haven't been in business long. And the person was like, yeah, like you need what we're selling. If you don't get this, you're not going to make it. Strong arming, fake urgency, all of these things that are really slimy. And I really dislike these kinds of sales tactics, by the way. I'm a big fan of transparency, candidness. The cold caller who calls and says, hey, this is a cold call. I'm really sorry. Hey, can I take 2 minutes of your time? And I promise it'll only be 2 minutes. Rather than the person who pretend, is this Janine? Oh, I was looking for, well, hey, since, by the way, I'm selling this thing. Can I tell you about, like if you've gotten these things like these calls like this. So all that to say, it's a wild world out there. There's a lot of scammers out there. There's people doing things that are, that's just not good business. I bring all this up to talk about, if you're trying to build a business long-term, you don't need to worry about relying on tricks or urgency or, playing on people's emotions or on, whatever is the latest little thing that certain salespeople talk about to try to grow your business. You don't have to worry about that stuff. If you're building a long-term business, all that should be your focus is simply doing what you said you would do. That's all that matters. Now, this is a challenge, I think, for some people, because in the sales conversation, what they say they will do, it's like promising the world. It's, oh, we're going to do that. Oh, we're going to take care of that. Oh, we're going to make that happen. And I sometimes I even find myself in sales conversations talking people out of buying from me. I was on a sales call the other day and this guy said, hey, well, if we're going to work together, I really need some help with my books. I need some help with my bookkeeping and, our finances, our financial documents. And I said, we can have a conversation about that where we can look at some of the top line stuff. We can look at some of your basic info, how much money you're making, what are you spending? What is your average customer? What are they spending when they buy from you? how many repeat buyers. Like we can look at financial data. I said, but let's be clear about something. I'm not an accountant. So if you're looking for someone to transform how you do your financial reporting within your organization, I'm not the guy. See, leading with that, being transparent with that, that's how you build trust with someone. You know what's funny about this person who, by the way, ended up buying off that phone call, signed the contract, all that stuff within the hour. He immediately responded with, well, we know if we get to the point where it's out of your wheelhouse that you'll recommend us to someone you trust. And I knew exactly who that person was immediately. And I even called that person and said, hey, can I refer some business to you? So it's amazing what it does for your business long term when you're not promising the world, you're not saying, and even I think sometimes we get put in a tough position where someone says, well, one of your competitors is going to do that. One of your competitors said they would. And it's like, okay, great. I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's, maybe give them a try and then call me afterwards because I know you're going to come back to me anyway. So I even think about, I had someone reach out to get some consulting work. And they said, we were chatting about it. We got the price out there, the bid, all that stuff. And they said, hey, we found this online course and it's a lot cheaper, significantly cheaper than what you're quoting. We think we want to go with that. And I said, you can. I said, go for it. My experience is that these online courses are created for the masses and that they're not a great ROI for what your business specifically needs. They said, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. And I said, all right, well, I'll reach out down the road. I reached out the next year and I said, hey, how did that go? He said, it did not go well. And I thought, I didn't think it was going. I knew it was not going to. I've lived it myself. So there's a whole nother conversation we can have there on like standing your ground, talking about your expertise, leading into a sales conversation. But I want to back up a little bit and really hone in on that point of how to grow your business by simply doing what you said you would. This is such a simple concept. This is not a concept you need an MBA for. You don't need to go to business school. You don't need 2 decades in the business world to understand what integrity means. I think when we think of integrity, we think of, I did not defraud or steal from my customer. But you know what else integrity is? It's doing what you said you would do. You have character. You have the wherewithal to say, yes, I will do that, and then commit to it. There's no better strategy for growing your business than having a business built on integrity. I bring all this up because we had a situation here locally. So we had a guy, and I'm not going to say the guy's name because I don't want to. This is also fresh. I don't want to create more drama than there needs to be. And I don't know this person's intent. I don't know how much this person was in the know. All I want to do is just talk about the facts and the information that I've been able to glean myself. So I had somebody come to one of my networking events, which I do these Tuesday morning events. I had somebody come to this event. And he was working for a company called Galt. And he said, hey, this is what we do. We basically, as far as I remember it, we basically help people build their equity in their business by appropriately accounting for expenses whenever they do their taxes. And if you do this the right way, whenever you apply for business loans, what have you, it's building your business value, it's building your business equity, and it's going to make you more likely to get favorable loans and interest rates and et cetera down the road. That's as far as I understood it. Now, for those who maybe were more experienced in this world, I apologize if I'm not nailing it completely. Now, I'd never heard of this before, and I thought, I even thought to myself, why aren't more people doing this? This is kind of interesting. Wasn't a good fit for me. I passed. This person came to a couple of networking groups. And then this person and I had a one-on-one. We had a conversation. And he said, hey, who do you know who would be a good fit for my program? Who's looking to like grow their business? And I thought, really anyone with employees is a good fit. So I talked to a friend of mine. And actually I asked, I said, hey, who do you have that's a great who is a customer of yours that would be, able to talk about you. He said, hey, you can call this moving company. They love me. Give them a phone call, whatever. So I called this moving company and I said, hey, I heard you're a customer of this guy. What do you think of him? Oh, we love him. He's awesome. We love Jay Galt. We love what they're doing. This is all going to be really great. Oh, okay, great. Well, in the meeting with this guy from Jay Galt, he mentioned, hey, do you know so-and-so who was a customer of mine? And I thought, I do. And he was kind of like, hey, can you maybe put in a good word? And I was like, well, I can at least ask him, if it's a good fit or not, and just get the conversation going. And by the way, we're all local business owners. We're all just trying to grow our businesses. So in the world of networking, the world of referrals, we're often giving referrals. And this guy seemed pretty harmless too. So I just thought, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. So I chatted with two of my customers, and both of those customers actually ended up buying from Jay Galt. One of them paid about $7,000. The other one, I was told paid $7,000, but he told me he hadn't paid off the balance yet. And it's only about $4,000. And then that moving company spent significantly more. We'll come back to that. So I didn't think much about this. This was probably maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Well, I'm at a BNI meeting on Tuesday morning, and my customer's there. He stands up, he's giving an announcement. He said, hey, if anyone has done business with Jay Galt, cancel your credit card, try to get a chargeback, do whatever you can, because I have found out they're doing some really not good stuff, and there's a chance you've lost your money. Well, pretty serious claim for a business that's being locally represented here. So here's what I did. I go up to him afterwards and I say, hey, dude, what's going on? What happened? And the short version of it is he says, Blake, I'm out $7,000. I got a text, not a phone call, nothing. I got a text from some number that was like, hey, Jay Galt is shutting its doors, and you're out of luck. And he was mad, understandably so. Well, I immediately call the moving company, or I messaged him on Facebook and said, hey, give me a call. She calls me. Person runs this moving company. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, we don't really know. They just literally sent out an email that they were ending their operations, yada, yada. And yeah, they just, and I don't blame this guy because, for all I know, he's bottom of the totem pole. But yeah, this is what's happened. So, and I'm like, so are you out? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm out a lot of money. So then I call my other customer and I'm like, bro, what's going on? Same story with him. Like, yep, I'm out thousands of dollars. Oh, and then the person who I was speaking to, she goes, yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if I hadn't gotten a phone call from them a couple of weeks ago that was like, hey, if you pay off your balance in cash, we'll knock off 15% what you owe. And she was like, I feel pretty bad about that, because I paid it off and then here I am. Now I'm really out of money. Which in retrospect is pretty obvious what happened here. This company, which I'm not saying it's a scam. I don't think it was necessarily a scam, but it's clear that this company was in a position where it was bleeding, where it was dying, and it needed cash ASAP. And so this guy was told, hey, call your customers, tell them we'll give them 15% off, what have you, if they pay off their balance. Let's get some cash injected in the business. Now, there's probably a good chance they knew they were closing their doors, and whoever runs the business was like, see ya, let's get the cash we can. But all this to say, I walked away from the situation thinking, okay, so was this a situation where a business goes bankrupt and unfortunately its customers are left in the lurch? And at first I thought, yeah, I guess so. Now, I still don't feel good about it. I mean, if it was me and my parent company did this, I would be groveling to my customers. I would be, because $7,000 is it's not a small investment. It's not a small expenditure. And this wasn't just one business. I mentioned 3, but there were dozens more as far as what I've been told. So I'd be bending over backwards because I would feel so guilty about the money my customers have spent. Well, I didn't think much more about it, but then a friend of mine reached out and they said, "Hey, have you ever tried Googling Galt?" I was like, "No, I haven't." So did a little Google action, and I get brought up to a number, you probably hear me clicking, a number of Reddit threads over the last couple of years about the shadiness of this company, Galt. Is it an MLM? What's going on here? What's happening with this company? Just people, I mean, just so many interesting questions about this company. And I start to realize, hang on a second, this isn't some random business that went out of business. This is something very suspect. So I'll read a couple of them to you. And I'll go back to one. Let's see if I can find the first one. One was 10 months ago that was like, is this an MLM? They approached me for a sales meeting. They asked me to meet with the CEO. There's another one from a month ago that I got reached out to about this company. And someone responded, this company is fraudulent, not even an MLM. They are outright fraud, just like all other life insurance debt elimination gimmicks in play in North America. There's no exchange of goods or currency. It's one-sided. They are ultimately harvesting data, and they ask their customers to give them a lot of money. So, wow. And then another comment after that, you are so correct. Unfortunately, I fear for my safety and I can't reveal everything I know. I mean, so many wild accusations. These are just things that I'm reading, by the way. I'm not saying this. I'm just reading these comments that are pretty wild, pretty incredible. All that to say, I then decided to check them out on the Better Business Bureau, and I found them. This is a company that was founded in 2021. So it's only been around for a few years, which my impression was that it was around quite a bit longer. And there is a number of customer reviews. There is a number of complaints against them from the BBB. And let's see. So looking at this one-star review from Christy in the year 2024, and some of this is censored out, by the way. I was asked, and let's just talk about this. I was asked to give a steep $10,000 fee, and I was assured a line of credit increase, and that I would get a full refund at the end of a year-long contract under certain conditions. Does that sound familiar? Removing the risk. That is, there's no risk here. There's no risk to you. You're going to get a full refund. All this to say, I was required to sign up with vendors that didn't have any bearing on my business. Many of my applications were declined. The goal was told to me that this was going to build my business's credit. I was told conflicting information, and ultimately I was given no support and got the final result. Yielded the same result. My grievances voiced in later meetings and through organized channel were ignored. My request to cancel the service was overlooked until I talked to the consultant who initially enrolled me. And the situation took a downward turn when some name censored intervened in the meeting, provided and basically dismissed me. And I was ultimately out $2,000 with no evident benefits to my business. Wow. Pretty interesting. This was back in February of this year. Back in May, another complaint. This is the worst experience ever. A lot of this is censored. I can't, unfortunately, I can't say any of these names. But then let's talk about the actual complaints this company got. We have a complaint listed in November of last year. I was referred to by blank, who mentioned this would help me. This company specializes in helping small businesses achieve large funding capabilities with their guidance. They said they would help my business out at once I enrolled. And there would be an initial deposit or enrollment fee. And after I paid it on November 16th, I was then told I did not qualify. And if I wanted to enroll, I would need to take a cash advance loan with them that would cover the rest of the enrollment. I politely declined their predatory attempts to get us to enroll. So this person, excuse me, this person wised up and realized not to spend any more money. And I love this, by the way. This is such a common scam that I hear. And again, I'm not saying this company's a scam. You make your own outcome from this conversation. But going back to that conversation on zero risk, I've had people try to sell me things, and I've even was in a conversation with someone who wanted me to buy a program, and I said, "Man, I can't afford that." And they said, "Oh, here, just get a loan. Here you can get you can do a cash advance on PayPal or on whatever, and it's great." And you can know these people do not care about your financial well-being. They care about getting paid. They care about getting you into their services. On June 10th of 2024, this person said, over my engagement with the company, I paid $3,615 and no services were provided. Any attempt at stopping the service and requests for refunds were left unattended. And here's another one. This is from August. I purchased their finance suite business credit building services in January. I signed a contract with them on January 29th. Per the contract, I was to work with a credit analyst who would help me complete each step with their credit building software and gain access to credit and capital options without using personal guarantees for my business capital. Then they give some more details. I'm on tier 3 of 7 tiers. I guess these are like payment tiers. But then I was sent an email on July 29th by the person who sold us the program stating that the finance suite had ceased their business operations. I attempted to confirm this by calling the finance suite directly, but no one would answer the phone. I then reached out directly by email to my credit analyst, and her email was no longer valid. On August 1st, I received an email confirming that they had ceased operations and that a refund would not be provided since they were filing for bankruptcy protection in the coming days. And my contract with them, and she adds, my contract has not, I say she, I don't know if this is male or female. They add, my contract has not been fulfilled, and they did not send any notice of termination. And I received half of the services that I paid $7,000 for. It's a familiar number. They did offer to work with me for an additional fee. Can you believe these people? However, the account rep confirmed that she did not know that she would be volunteered in their email to us, their clients. I have paid too much for the little services I received. I refuse to pay any more money going forward. Yada, yada. I mean, what a shame. What a shame. I hate these situations. I really do. And I think what disgusts me the most about these is when these conversations have come up and gotten into the limelight, I have really disliked people who try to twist the blame onto the buyer, onto the customer. They should have known better. You should ask more questions. You should have yada, yada. I hate that stuff. The bottom line is that this person seems to feel like she was scammed, or they were scammed. I keep saying she because she mentions her rep as a she. They mention this person spent $6,999, $7,000. It's a lot of money. Not for every business. It's a lot of money. And ultimately, did not get what was promised. Story gets a little bit more interesting. I talked to a friend of a commercial banker, and he said, I don't even know what they were providing. As far as I know, when it comes to loans, when it comes to getting credit, this simple process of it's going to help you get such easy loans, such good interest rate, I've never heard of it. Doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know what's going on with this company. I do know, going back to my friend who runs the moving company, she says that the business is disbanded, it no longer exists, that, there's nothing that can be done. But all this to say, let's have a few quick reminders to those of you who are listening. If someone promises you the world, if they talk about something that's so easy, I don't know why people aren't doing this more. Chances are it's not what it's cracked up to be. And unless the person you buy from has a, full transparency of their brand. I was for like a marketing contract. We were redoing someone's website, and the person who was currently doing the website accused me of trying to steal this person's website and steal his data, steal his info. And to my customer, I was like, you don't want to switch to Good Advice. They're gonna steal all your stuff. And I was like, okay, their website gets zero traffic, and I have a very outwardly facing podcast and brand. Do you really think I'm going to sacrifice my brand over a single website? Do you think that's happening? So unless someone has like a massive brand where it'd be illogical, you've never heard of the person, you don't know who they are, you've never heard of their company, you've never heard of their business, the service they sell doesn't make a lot of sense, I would say run and run away quickly. And worse, if someone promises you the world, they tell you about how much money they're going to make you, how there's no risk, how there's a full guarantee, I'll go ahead and tell you, it's probably a scam. You need to run away. And ultimately, it's a shame what's happened with the people who've been abused by this company, who are out these thousands of dollars. But not to sound cynical, there's going to be more scams. There's going to be more scams down the road. There's going to be more businesses that don't deliver on what they said they would deliver. And, again, I don't know the full story of what's going on here. All I know is my two customers, my friend, and these Reddit threads and the Better Business Bureau, the complaints that I've read on the BBB. So all that to say, if you're listening locally and you bought from Jay Galt, I feel you. I'm sorry for what's happened to you. But otherwise, let's do this. Let's stay vigilant and let's try to help each other out. When you're going to give a referral to someone, and this is to myself too, make sure you're doing your due diligence on ensuring that these companies are legit companies. So some wild drama here in NWA as of late. And let that be a lesson to all of us, again, to be mindful in what we spend our money on. Hey, that's today's Good Advice episode. I appreciate you listening. We'll be back next week for some more Good Advice content. And don't forget, you can always follow us on LinkedIn, anywhere really on social media. And if you ever thought about supporting the podcast, you can go to our Patreon. You can email me, blake@goodadvicecoaching.com, if you want to advertise on the show. And that is going to be our Good Advice today. We'll catch you later. See ya.